And all of a sudden, I'm in these Facebook mom groups seeing all these posts from these frustrated moms. I can't find someone on Tuesday and Thursday from 3 to 6 p.m. Fill out my form, you know, and then they would fill it out and they would give me all this information, their phone number, their home address, everything, their kids' names, their life story in the notes. Because they recognize, like, if she's taking all this information, she's going to use it to find me someone that actually fits. Not just a generic, here's some people, see if they work. Okay? All the other apps out there give you a list, and then you have to spend your time contacting and vetting them.
Have time to do that.
Takes like 30 hours on average. It'd be like Uber giving you a list of 30 drivers' names and phone numbers. Saying, here you go, call them all, see which one's willing to pick you up.
Which is the...
Welcome back to
Salt
Sauna
Soul.
We are so excited. We have with us today Diane Moca of MomSub. Tech startup for the moms. And we're going to learn a lot about that, talk about that with wellness today. So I'm very excited to have you. Welcome, Diane.
Thank you for inviting me. This is a wonderful setup. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes. Okay, so we always start with some tea, so I will pour the tea for us today.
And I am a tea drinker. I don't drink coffee, I drink tea.
So this is our mint blend. So it's a combination of 3 different mints that we put together, peppermint, spearmint, and chocolate mint. Grown locally in Aurora. You won't find it any other place on the planet. So,
I love mint tea, so this is perfect.
And most responses we've gotten is that they're like, this is a different kind of mint, right?
Well, chocolate mixed in there, wow. That
it gives it a nice earthy flavor.
Okay.
All right, so cheers.
Cheers. Thank you.
All right, so let's get into it.
Oh, this is great. It's not too hot, it's just right.
Thank you.
All right.
All right, so let's get into it. Tell us a little bit about MomSub and you and how you got started, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. I'll kind of give you the backstory.
Okay.
So I got my degree in college in communications and knew I wanted to be a journalist. And it's a very difficult, challenging field, and I worked hard to get my career in TV news, which is what I always wanted. So I was a television reporter at a CBS station in Milwaukee.
Oh, nice.
And I, at the time, was trying to have children. And this was a high priority for me. I always wanted to be a mom. And so when my son came along, I was naive and thought, well, I'll just step back for a few years, and then when he's a little older, going to school, I'll get back into my career. But there was a sadness about this because I had worked really hard to get to that point, and I really loved what I did. And so 6 months after I had been away, I went back to the station to visit, bring my baby so everyone could ooh and ah over him. And my managing editor came up to me and said, we really miss you. We'd love to have you back. And I said, at the time, I was living in the Chicago suburbs, commuting up to Milwaukee. I actually had been staying up there. They had put me up because I was filling in for someone else on maternity leave when I first started with the station.
Oh, wow.
And then they liked me and continued to have me work. And I was like, I'm not going to move up there. It's not doable for me to do 5 days a week, you know, and I didn't want to be away from my baby 5 days a week. And I had the flexibility that my husband had a good job at the time. And so I said, you know, I would love to come back, but only 2 days a week, you know? And I said it as a joke.
Okay.
And my managing editor said, I think we could arrange that.
Oh.
And I was just about floored. I always tell women, please ask for what you want. You never know. The universe is going to give it to you. And so this set the stage for the next 15 years of my life.
Wow.
I did this commute from the Chicago suburbs to Milwaukee for 15 years, did a career I loved and was passionate about, 2 days a week, and spent 5 days with my kids.
That is
perfect,
fantastic.
right?
Yeah.
So there were two things that I didn't like about it. Number one was I hated that commute. That's another story.
I can
Of
imagine.
how I ended up listening to audiobooks, and one of the books made me become an accidental entrepreneur because I never wanted to be an entrepreneur. I wanted to be a journalist. I am a journalist. That's kind of what's in my blood. That's what's in my blood. It's not really what I do. It's who I am. Yes. The second one was I, put my son in daycare a couple days a week, and then I would pick him up and I'd see all the girls talking instead of paying attention to the babies in the crib. And I was like, this is not a place for my child. And so I tried college students and going through agencies and asking neighbors, and I would have someone who would watch him for a little bit, and then a few months later they would leave because they were like, well, these hours aren't working, or I need to find something full time, or my situation changed, or I can't keep up with your changing schedule. So I worked 2 days a week and my days changed every week, partly because I had the flexibility to change them according to what I wanted, so I could be there for all my kids' events. Perfect.
Oh, okay.
But not perfect for childcare. So I went through 12 different childcare providers during the first 4 years of being a working mom.
Oh, that sounds
a
hard.
lot.
But guess what? That is not uncommon.
Really?
It is really sad that to this day, my kids are in their 20s, but moms are still going through this, especially moms who need part-time care. Now, you might think, well, most people probably either work full-time or not at all.
Yeah.
First of all, their gig economy is bigger than ever, so lots of people work part-time and have changing schedule. And next, so many families have found that the grandparents of the children will watch them, but not necessarily full-time. So they don't want to pay a daycare full-time if grandma will watch them 3 days a week. They just need someone to help 2 days a week. So our specialty at MomSub is helping parents who need that hard-to-find part-time care in their home. It's not the only thing we do. We can help families with full-time and other things, but that's really the sweet spot when I started to see that traction of early adopters saying, oh my gosh, where have you been? I really need this. And they go through so much stress that they consider or sometimes do leave their careers. About 1 million moms every year are leaving their careers because of childcare challenges, not necessarily just affordability of childcare, but just the simple challenge of being able to find that care that's consistent and will stay with you. And so that, became my vision that eventually became my business, is to solve this problem for other moms so they didn't have to go through the 4 years of stress that I did.
I love that story. That is, so you touched on so many things. Just generally speaking, it's like your passion, your vision, how you wanted to live, asking for what you want, and then saying, oh, wow, I get it. And then saying, hey, if I'm having this issue, maybe some other people are having this issue, how can we solve it? And then creating a business model around it. So tell us a little bit about how MomSub works.
Okay.
So
when I first started, I actually had a different model. And so this is the power of pivoting. I also struggled with affordability. And when I eventually found what I call our forever nanny that stayed with us for 8 years, she was a retired grandma. She didn't need, to earn what even was kind of standard for others, and we couldn't afford that. And so I was able to pay her what worked for her and what worked for me. And so I thought affordability is the biggest factor. And so I thought, wouldn't it be great if moms traded childcare? When you need care, I'll provide it for your kids, and when I need it, I'll drop my kids off at your place, and it'll be like play dates. And so for a couple years, I was doing all these different things to get people to do this childcare trading, and people said, great idea, I love it, yes. Okay, so do you want to do it? Well, yeah, but not today, not tomorrow. Well, when, Well, I would need to get to know the mom. So then I started having events and building community, and then I got sidetracked. I'm like, I'm spending time and money to do these events and build community, but different people are going to the events every time. It's not really building community in the way I thought, where they all become friends, and this isn't working. And so I teamed up with a friend who lived in Silicon Valley, and he said, I think your idea is great, but you just need to find the right path, and let's brainstorm every week. And so once a week we would brainstorm and all these different ideas, and then a simple thing like a Google form, asking people not just what do you want, but like exactly what you need. Like this is what marketers tell you not to do. A form that had like 30 questions. It was like, is it okay if a mom helps provide care and brings her kids? Some people say yes, some say no. How many hours do you need a week? Do you need somebody
Yeah.
on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday? How old are your kids? How much can you pay? Real specific questions.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, I'm in these Facebook mom groups seeing all these posts from these frustrated moms. I can't find someone on Tuesday and Thursday from 3 to 6 p.m. Fill out my form, you know, and then they would fill it out and they would give me all this information, their phone number, their home address, everything, their
They're like, "I
kids'
need
names,
help."
their life story
need
in the
help.
notes.
Yeah.
Because they recognize, like, if she's taking all this information, she's going to use it to find me someone that actually fits.
Yes.
Not just a generic,
Yes.
here's some people, see if they work.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
All the other apps out there give you a list, and then you have to spend your time contacting and vetting
You
them.
have time to do that.
Takes like 30 hours
Yes.
on average. It'd be like Uber giving you a list of 30 drivers' names and phone numbers.
Yes.
Saying, here you go, call them all, see
Yeah.
which one's willing to pick you up.
Which is the old cab service. If you think about it, right? It's similar to the old cab service, right? And
That
you're like,
didn't
I
work.
call different dispatches
And
and
it
try to
didn't work,
find
and
the rates.
nobody would
it's
get
like,
you.
Yeah. And
Yes.
you're like, I'm standing out here for 2 hours. Like, where is Jim? He's like, he's going to be in a wreck. I'm like, I'm out here and it's raining. Where is Jim?
That's
So-
exactly what parents were going through. So when I started seeing these parents giving me the specific criteria of what they needed, then I went out and started trying to build a roster of nannies to fill that. And so I the same thing. There's a lot of Facebook groups with nannies and parents and going to colleges and, you know, and so I got to the point where I had, 50, 100 parents and childcare
Nice.
providers. And then I'm going through, every time I would get a new one, line by line, it would take hours for me to figure out what, I had 2 spreadsheets and I'm manually comparing them. And I went to my son who had a degree in computer science and I said,
He said, gotta be a
Help
way
me
to.
out here.
we can build an algorithm to fix this problem. And he said, okay. And now he's my chief technology officer.
Oh my God, that is so
That is
fantastic.
So, he built this algorithm that could take this process down to a couple minutes of a process running, and then boom, here's the possible matches, and then eventually an automation that contacts those potential matches to see who's available and interested
awesome.
now, not who was available and interested last week,
Yes.
but today, right now.
Yes.
And so using technology to make the process better. And we have an app in the App Store now where parents can fill in all that information. They can do it on the website or in the App Store through the app. The technology helps bring the customers in, bring the childcare providers in, connect them. And then we also realize that just connecting them is only half the battle. Managing from week to week. Parents who have a set schedule have schedules that change about a quarter to a third of the time. You'd be amazed.
Yeah.
It's like, this is our schedule. Well, actually, but not
Yeah.
next week.
Yeah.
And then in a month.
Yeah.
And then actually tomorrow.
Yes.
So we're helping them track all that. So if the child care provider who's the regular assigned nanny can't be there, we can find a backup. Or we can ask and see, are you available to adjust your schedule? And it's easier than the mom having to ask, and then she goes through that guilt and everything else. And she's got a million things she's juggling, that mental load in her head. It's one less thing she has to worry about. She just fills out our form and we take care of it. We tell her either they can do it, they can't do it, or, do you need a backup?
I love it.
My brain is like swirling with a lot of different things, but I don't want to derail us yet because I got something in the cannon. I'm gonna ask some questions.
Okay, but no, go ahead. Go ahead. You can ask your question.
Well, one of the things that, I got a statement. One, when you say it's like a marketer's nightmare, and I was like, well, actually a good marketer, what you did with all those questions was brilliant. It actually was really brilliant. My background is also in marketing. So it's actually brilliant because, why is brilliant? Because the demographics that you're dealing with and trying to serve, actually both demographics, both ends. It's especially with the moms, specificity is super, super important because they need that in order, because what you're trying to solve is a sense of trust, security, and control. Right? That's what moms want. When it comes to their kids, they want to be able to, whatever they in, whatever's around them, who engage with them, they want to make sure that they can trust it, right? They want to make sure that they feel secure and also their children are secure. And they want to have a good sense of control on that to dial it up. And the only way you can get that is by getting very, very granular. And so I'm happy to hear that you actually switched that pivot because you need a lot of information in order to give that. And people need to answer all those questions so that I feel like I'm in control, because you can hear, if you heard me, right? You see me, I feel like I can trust you. And then in turn, if you're giving me results based off of that, then I feel secure. And I have some control because I influenced the process from the very beginning. So I just want to commend you for making that pivot, even though some people were like, oh, just give them like a couple of questions. Like, no, for what you're doing, you need that for those 3 reasons. Any great marketing team should have known to be like, all right, we need to get down into the weeds of it and get very, very specific. And how many questions it takes. Mom's going to appreciate it if the outcomes give them this trust, the security, and control.
And there was no team. It was just me at
Well,
that point.
so I'm proud of you.
And
I'm
the
happy for
trust, let me tell you another thing that helped the trust come. With the trading of childcare, there was a lack of trust even with another mom who had kids, if they didn't know them because they weren't paying them. Versus now, when they fill out the form and they say, here's how much I can afford per hour, they feel like this is a professional. I'm paying them. I trust they're going to show up. They have incentive, right? It's how capitalism in our society works, right? We have incentive to show up and do our work because we're getting paid. There's a lot of other reasons. We want them to love children as well. But this built trust in a way that almost surprised me because I was like, don't you want to save money? But if it means that it reinforces trust by saying, we want this to be a professional relationship and there to be an exchange of something valuable, and money is a valuable commodity, this also went a long way to building the trust.
Yes. So, I mean, I think it was a great pivot. I guess my question is this now, too, because I was a single dad raising my daughters. And so, are you getting men on the website? Are you getting men to utilize this service?
Single dads. Almost. So we get moms.
I wish I knew about
we
this.
Get moms who are single moms.
Shit, I was like, damn, I needed help.
We get moms who have a partner. We get dads who have a partner, and we get dads who are single dads. I would say number one, we get married moms is probably the number one demographic, and then I would say number 2 would be single moms. And then I would say number 3 would be single dads. And then I would say number 4 would be dads who are taking it on themselves to handle this for their wife. But oftentimes they find us, they fill out the form, and then they say, now I'm going to pass you over to my wife because she's got to make the decision. Boss has to make the decision. You know, and so what I do find, though, is especially those single parents are so grateful when they find us. And when I tell them, we're not just going to find the right person and place them like a nanny agency. We're in your village for the long haul. So if we hope this is going to be a forever situation where you find the right person and she stays with you. But if it doesn't work out that way, we're here with you to find the next right person or to help when that person, we had someone who had to go away. She had a family emergency that caused her to go away for a month, right? But they didn't want to lose her. We want her when she comes back so we can help you in the meantime. So there's so many different scenarios and we're there for them.
That's awesome. Okay.
I would love to know, now that you've been doing this for a while, what have your clients said about how this has potentially changed their lives?
Oh my gosh. I think there are clients who were considering leaving their careers, who were on the verge of that, which we know happens because they had just gone through so many different people there. So they were just thinking of stepping back. And we support any mom who wants to stay home with their child. But if she's like, I love my career, I don't want to leave it, but I feel like I have to, that we don't want to see happen. That's what wellness is about. It's about knowing what you want in life and then going for it and figuring out a way, all the pieces of the puzzle. I had a mom call me that was crying. She said, I worked so hard to coordinate a part-time schedule that would suit me and my children perfectly. And now and she went through the same thing I went through. I've been through 4 people in the last year. Maybe I'm asking for too much. And she was literally crying. And I said, stop. You're not asking for too much. You can let out your emotions, but don't worry. You can stop crying because I'm going to solve this problem. And the person who actually was serving as her nanny for many months before she ended up moving to Florida because her son got into this program to be a professional tennis player in his
Oh,
future.
okay.
That young woman just recently helped a woman who lost her husband in October and called me again, almost crying. I have to go out of town for business. I don't know what I'm going to do. We moved here, recently in the last year. I have no family. He passed away. I'm still kind of shell shocked from this grief and being a single mom. I said, I'll find someone for you. I'll find someone trusted who can step in and do that care for you while you're out of town. And so our wonderful caregiver, Rose, who had helped Gaia 3 in Naperville for many months, stepped up and said, I'll help your new client. And I just got a wonderful text from her yesterday just saying what a game changer this was, that she was able to tell her work, I can do this. Because her work was like, if you keep not being able to do what we need you to do, we may have to let you go. So here she was able to do what she needed to do for her work, feel comforted knowing her kids were taken care of. And that's what fuels me. I want to grow this to be a big company, a very big company, so that we help hundreds, thousands, millions of moms. But one person at a time is what gives me that great satisfaction that I'm doing something important and helping other working moms.
That
So
is
fascinating.
amazing. I'm like, you got me so jazzed and pumped up. And I'm like, I'm just a bonus mom. But I'm like, this is fantastic. Okay, so are you available currently just in the Naperville, Aurora, western suburb areas? Or are we going nationwide? What are we doing here? What are we doing?
So we started in the western suburbs. We have nannies all over Chicagoland. So up in Carpentersville and down in Tinley Park and in the city and Lincoln Park and Wicker Park, all over. So we are definitely all over Chicagoland. And we tested in another city to see how easy it would be to duplicate our process. And we had some clients as well in Phoenix. So we know we can take
So you pulled out of the Midwest.
Not pulled out.
I mean,
expanded.
I mean,
expanded
not pulled out.
out.
I'm sorry. Wrong choice.
Yes. So we
words.
occasionally have people come to us, even if we're not marketing in other states, and I tell them we can help you there. We may not be able to find you somebody within a day, or an hour, or sometimes even a few minutes, but we can find you somebody within a week or two. We have a system in place that can be duplicated.
That is awesome.
Yes.
That is awesome. And okay, so let's tie this all into wellness. You started to tie it, because a lot of this that we've talked about really, to me, hinges around like mental health aspects of, reducing stress, helping nervous system regulation as the caregiver for someone else. And just kind of, what are your thoughts around that, and how do you see MomSub really supporting the overall well-being of the mother and therein by the family?
So let me tell you about the mission of the company. The mission of the company is not to find the right childcare for every working mom. That is what our process does. The mission of the company since the beginning has been to reduce the stress, the guilt, and the self-criticism of moms, and to increase their calm, their confidence, and their clarity. And that's what childcare can bring. It sounds, very big picture, but it is true. And it's not just childcare that can bring that. Delegating things in your life to others can bring that relief of stress and can eliminate that guilt when you know that you found someone who isn't necessarily going to do things your way, but do things in a way that you're comfortable and you're secure and you feel trusted.
Totally.
And that brings calm to your life. I mean, the testimonial from that mom in Naperville, she literally said, I'm so calm at work. I used to be always worried. So I started this, one of the reasons that I started this was the struggle that I had with childcare during those first 4 years. But I didn't start it then. I was too busy, and I just had this idea germinating. And then years later, when I didn't even need that forever nanny who had been with us for 8 years, but I was driving my kids 2 hours a day. You know, they were preteens and they were in all these activities, and I'm trying to coordinate carpools, you know, and then I went to a conference and they said, I was covering it as a reporter. If you solve a problem, you know, you can make a lot of money by, you know, using technology to solve a problem. Like, moms have this problem of not enough time, not enough people to help them. And that's when I came up with the idea about trading childcare. And so all along, I knew that there was this stress on moms. And I started this because I recognized that I was going through this and that moms go through this because there's a part of them that wants to be in two places at once.
Yeah.
They love their career, they love their kids. Why can't I just do both? Yeah. So I was like, if you could clone a mom, she would be like a substitute mom. And so that's what I wanted to find. Because I recognize that guilt is debilitating, right?
Yeah.
All those things, that stress, that guilt, that self-criticism, and you blame yourself. You know, I mean, that's what she was doing when she called me and said, you know, I'm asking for too much. Why can't I find, they say that. Why can't I find the right person? Because you can only fish in a small pond. I have thousands of nannies on my roster, and I can ask them, you know, I can look and see who's the right, in a few minutes. You can't do that, you know? Yeah. And so you have to use the processes that are available. Yeah. And so I know the importance of finding ways to delegate the things in your life to people that you trust to relieve those things from you, because you can't do it all. You can't have it all at the same time, right? We try to do that, working moms, but you have to recognize that you need that village. And the reason you need the village is for your, not just mental health, but your physical health. When your mental health is in a good place, it means your physical health is going to be more likely to be in a good place as well, because mental health can definitely degrade your physical health, and I've been through that myself.
Yes.
So I'm curious to know, like, what are some of those hidden costs? I think you may even probably alluded to just now, but what are some of the hidden costs that moms actually like face, and what are some of the effects? Like, what causes that, and that you're trying to solve too? So
I would say mom guilt is one of the biggest ones. You don't hear about dad guilt. Moms have this guilt, you know, they're at work and they're thinking, you know, oh, I should be there today when, you know, my child's getting that award at school, but I can't be there, you know, and then they're home with their children and their kids are like, hey, let's play this game, you know, no, I have to answer this email. My boss just told me, like, there's this crisis going on. So they're constantly feeling pulled for these two different things. And so that guilt feeds on itself, and you start to blame yourself. You know, why can't I do everything at the level that I did before I had kids? So that's the number one thing that's unrealistic. So you have to get rid of the unrealistic expectations. You can't do everything the way you did before you have kids, because your life has changed. You now have children, and not only do you have to devote your time to them, you want to. You want to be the best mom you can be. This is especially impactful for high-achieving women. So many high-achieving women, they always did everything, you know, perfectly and just right and 110%, right? And they were the person that the company knew they could go to, and now they're not, or they're trying to be, but they're breaking inside. So and so they hit burnout. So they're definitely at risk of hitting burnout, where they just step back from everything. And there's nothing wrong with recognizing this isn't working, I need to step back, but you don't want that to happen after you've had, you know, a physical ailment, after you've had a breakdown, after you've, you know, had a spouse leave, you're yelling at your kids. I went through periods where I was yelling at my children a lot. I was going through a lot of financial stress, you know, after the crash in 2008, because my previous two businesses, one of them was real estate, and that was very detrimental to our family. So, you know, I can look back on that now and say I could have handled things better, you know, that period of time when things were very stressful and I may have been taking it out on others. So that's what you do. When your system is overloaded, you're taking it out, you're either stuffing it down and then you're suffering for that physically, or you're taking it out on others, or you're doing both. And so these are huge potentially damaging impacts to your health, to your relationships, to your life. And sometimes you don't realize it until some really horrible things happen.
Oh my gosh, that is so true. That is so true. I'm like, 'cause as you were saying that, I was like, oh, that was me yesterday. I was stressed out, and
she was
I was
beating me up.
I did not beat you.
She was beating me up.
I was
like,
snippy.
ow, stop,
I was
it hurts.
snippy.
Oh,
I did
she
it.
was.
I was
She was beating
snippy.
me up. But you know what the difference? I also, and this is a little bit derailing, whatever. But back to that was, I guess maybe I'm matured enough to know that like I had to just stop and give like a pep talk. You know, to Donna, I just had to stop.
I was gonna say yourself no to her.
Yeah, and then just
I was
like
being snippy.
Yeah, I was like, yo, we in this thing together, right? I just had to like point that out. But
awareness,
also, like, hey, let's remember that. And let's remember, you know, we have been in these moments before where we have to like, oh my God, I know our day was set to do this, right? And now we have to now for the next 2 or 3 days do a ton of other stuff because, you know, what we said we're trying to deliver, you know, because we're trying to expand on a build out or whatever. And we found out that, you know, we actually have to reset up the space and the whole bit. So it's like the city won't give us our
external.
Yeah.
External
And so,
pressures.
but it was like, well, we was going to pay people to do this, but it'll push our timeline back. So now the best option is for us to roll up our sleeves and do this construction work, like do this, you know what I'm saying?
Like we were talking about
Yes.
earlier. Yeah, like we
And
have to do sometimes with our
and
real
it's
estate.
like,
Yeah.
oh, whoa. And so that alone is just stressful. But it's also like I get the surprise effect of it all, not to mention. And yes, the best, and it was just a lot. It was a lot. It was
And
a
if
lot.
you have kids screaming in the background,
Yeah.
not sleeping at night,
Yeah.
getting in trouble at school, boy, does that add to that mix.
Yes. And then
right?
I was like, okay,
It's true.
I was annoyed, you know what I'm saying? Because I just came from a doctor's office and a checkup. So I'm in a different headspace. And in past, it would be like, all right, now I'm annoyed. She's annoyed because, you know, I'm annoyed more also by your energy and you want me to be a spectacle. And I can't. And I was like, wait, I had to like, at some point, I was like, yo, I had to just break it.
You
and
diffused instead
yes,
of escalating.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a bad habit to escalate sometimes.
And sometimes it was one of those things.
Diffusing.
It's one of those things where it realizes like, yo, she can't right now. She cannot regulate. She just can't. She just can't regulate right now. And it's not my fault. You know what I'm saying? It ain't her fault in that sense, but she can't regulate. And also, like, I'm the closest thing in the blast radius and I'm getting it. But I also was like, yo, I can't keep getting it because then I can only go so I'm like, I got to do something proactive. And so de-escalate, but also remind like, yo, we got to tell ourselves this. You know, and so part of it, I'm just giving a little insight and caveat. We can move on. As a man, I know sometimes it's hard for us to constantly feel like to de-escalate sometimes because it feels like we're just trying to we focus on her issues and needs while we was at the blast radius of something that I didn't even do. So why I got to now placate and all that, and we see that way. And I think the way I handled it yesterday was more of a good balance. De-escalate you, remind you for who you are, and then also have a request to say, hey, you work on reminding yourself this message too of that we are a team. I need that from you as well. And so I'm asking, and also I'm leading and showing, and also just saying both of us give each other grace in this moment and we will solve it. So I have, you know what I'm saying, and it made me feel good by it because I had an ask built in there, right? In a way, and it seemed like it worked well because she didn't fight me on the ask either.
Yeah,
so I was like, well, I said it. I got it. I don't know if I'm going to get it, but I said it. You know what I'm saying?
It's like you created a code word that you can use in the future. We're a team. You're doing it again. You know, yes. Yeah. I've been tracking lately, you know, my husband says I have angry outbursts that upset him, right? So I'm like, I think I used to. I don't know if I do anymore. So I'm like, let me track them. And then, so sometimes we're having a conversation. This isn't an angry outburst. And he's like, yeah, it is. And I'm like, we're just having a conversation. He's like, your volume is this high. And I'm like, so if I talk loud, that's an angry outburst? He's like, it's the tone. And I'm like, okay, I guess I need to. So I wrote it down. Volume and tone equal angry outburst. And I put the date. And I'm like, okay, so I need you to tell me because I didn't know. He's like, it makes me feel bad, you know, when you're directing it at me. You know, it's not even just going out. It's like he feels like it's directed, you know, and we do that with our children sometimes too, and they don't have the tools and the know-how to protect their own mental health. And of course, parents, we know you're doing the best you can. So don't beat yourself up. You know, sometimes you yell at your kids, you know, but you can always improve. I get audiobooks. So to this day, you know, we're talking about wellness. I ride a bike 10 miles a day, and while I'm riding, I listen to audiobooks. So I'm improving my physical health and my mental health. And whatever it is I'm working on at the time, if my husband says my anger is out of control, I'll listen to a book about anger management. If I feel like I need more sales in my business, I listen to a book about sales. If I'm just feeling like, oh, another problem, I put on the motivational and I get like pumped up, you know, you can do it, you know, Tony Robbins says, keep going. Grant Cardone says 10X, you know, I do whatever I need at that time. And sometimes I have a couple different ones going. And so, you know, we need to find the formula in our life that helps us to get to that next step. And even when you have it figured out, things change. So you have to keep reassessing. But that's such a beautiful thing that you recognize that, you know, me just shooting back at her is only going to make it worse. Let's bring it down a notch. And you giving her this code word. I think that's a beautiful code word. I want to remember that. We're a team. And even to do that with your kids could work. To say,
because the family is a team.
The family is definitely a team. I know you want that candy, but we're a team here. And this part of the team says that's going to be bad for your teeth and your stomach and your attitude. You're going to be off the walls when we're about to go somewhere where you're going to have to sit for half an hour. And that's going to make things worse. So, of course, a child can't really comprehend all of those logical things. But to say, how about if we get it now and then you eat it later? You know, so come up with compromises. You know?
And I think some of it, and I think, you know, one of our last messages about like self-care, questions about self-care, but it's like, I don't think as human beings enough in interpersonal relationships, we understand helping each other process something, process the moment, is actually self-care. Right? It's you just don't frame it in that way, but like in that moment, if you take the same moment that happened yesterday, right? It was self-care for both of us. Right? Because everything in me wanted to be like, get up off me. Like I wanted to, it wouldn't have been helpful for the moment because what we got to do, we still got to do it. Right? We were helpful for a moment. It would have ate up more time to get to the solve. Right? Because a lot of times with those clashes, even if you like, okay, we kind of eventually will work it out. But it's like, it would take, we could have been in this battle thing for hours or for another day, which in turn, getting to the solve is further away, right? So it doesn't help the moment. It doesn't help, you know what I'm saying, that. But it also doesn't help, where I say with self-care is that I also realized after that, you know, and she ran off to IKEA and got some stuff. I was like, yo, you know what? I needed to pull out of it. Because the instinct was this and thinking like that's going to feel good because I got my point across. I was like, actually, I needed to get out of that, right? And she needed to pull out of that energy. We both just needed to be out of it because that energy was just a negative pop, right? And we don't realize that like part of self-care is not staying in that negative and that energy work and that you know, vibration. It ain't productive, it ain't conducive, but it's also, you need to get out of that to get into a more, in the light, so to speak, so that you can feel better, do better, exist better, and bring those stress levels down. There's physical, biological effects of doing that as well. And I was like, wow, actually, but one thing that was helpful was that it's like helping each other process the moment to able to find a door. That's how I see helping each other process the self-care. It's like you almost crack the door open in that dark energy. So you know, okay, that's a door to get into the light. Like just get out of it, right? And so you help them process. They're like, okay, what is the main thing is the main thing. And in the end, if we can agree to that, then we're going to find our way to get out of that negative energy. And that's self-care because everything started and we started moving and stuff started making and started working. It was like, whoa, look at all this great movement. And we good. So helping each other process a moment. She couldn't do it for me. And so I was like, well, my nervous system ain't all firing, right? She dealt with the city workers and all the above. My nervous system is not firing like this. And sometimes, like I had, for that doctor's appointment, they was like, hey, your test results is this, whatever. And I was just like frustrated in that. And she was like, hey, you need to take some more vitamin D. She helped me process the moment so I cannot feel, even in this podcast right now, in my headspace in a more positive space. It's like sometimes you just need somebody, or you have to process the moment as part of self-care, because I think if we understand it, we can make peace with it. We can move through it. We have more control around it, feel more secure. And those are good, positive things to me. So that's my little 2 cents on that's the last thing I want to say.
I agree that what you said about emotional regulation, that equals self-care for both people involved. When there's a conflict, disagreement, or when one person is not regulating. And parents deal with this constantly, right, with their children. Yeah. So to recognize that emotional regulation for yourself and for a person who's not currently regulating their emotions properly, to help them is self-care for both people. That's such a beautiful lesson for parents, and for parents especially of children who have special needs and struggle tremendously with emotional regulation. And for caregivers, we have caregivers who help families whose children have trouble with emotional regulation. And I hear that so often. Well, my child's not on the spectrum, but they have trouble with emotional regulation, or they have ADHD, which means they have trouble with regulation, or they are on the spectrum and they have trouble with emotional regulation. I hear this so much. And so the parent thinks of it as, oh, I have to deal with this again. I love your reframing. Yeah. Don't think of it as, oh no, here it goes again. I've got to deal with this. Or the caregiver. Think, my self-care is part of helping them to regulate, and then it helps me to regulate as well, so they're not triggering me, because their emotional dysregulation, if that triggers your emotions to go out of whack, then you're both not caring for yourself. Yes. So this is a beautiful takeaway for this conversation for parents and caregivers to understand that it's actually helping you with your own self-care to learn how to regulate your own emotions, right? You can only control your response to a situation, control your response, but then take that next step of actually helping the other person to regulate theirs. Get down on their level, talk to them. Maybe talking just makes them more angry. Color with them instead. Yeah. Keep coming up with ideas. Yeah. My daughter dealt with some mental health struggles by writing songs. She knows how to sing and play piano, and all these songs poured out of her, and I think that helped her with coping. So who knows what it is that's going to help regulate it. Sometimes we try talking first, but that's not always the answer. No. But I love that code word that you had. I'm going to have to remember.
Yeah. So. And I will admit, and I love that you used the word reframing, because that is something that I did when I finally got a chance to come home. And I was doing my little self-care hour. I sat and thought and said, Donna, you're in a funk. How are you going to reframe this? I literally asked myself that question. I was like, you need to reframe everything that has happened today. And then I was like, okay, how do I say something positive out of what happened today that totally derailed everything that I wanted to do? And it was like, well, you're going to save yourself $5,000. And I was like, oh, okay. Reframe that real quick. And then I saved myself $5,000. Okay, I guess it was okay that it didn't quite pan out the way I wanted it to. So that's okay. And so then this morning when I was doing my morning workout and meditations, after I finished that, I started going down the Reddit rabbit hole, and you mentioned, children with special needs and additional, emotional regulation. And so one of my family members has special needs. And so I saw a little skit where it was two single parents that one had autistic children. And so the parents were having like a conversation about their frustrations. And I was watching the skit and I was like, oh my gosh, this is, and I just immediately sent it. And I was like, this is you. And I totally get it. After watching that, I was like, this is her daily.
Yeah.
And get a message back, and it's crying emojis, laughing emojis. Yup. And it's just
You saw her.
yes.
Yeah.
It was like, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
I can't tell you how many posts I see on LinkedIn, because I'm in these working mom communities and seeing all their frustrations, that say, man, I apologize to all the women that I said things about, like, what? You get to leave and not go to the meeting because you're a mom? Because now I'm 6 months into being a mom, and boy, was I wrong. You can't be in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
And life isn't necessarily fair. And, just because a parent at work may have different parameters than you have doesn't mean they're getting special treatment, or someone who has an aging parent, or someone who just had a death in the family. I mean, we understand some of these things, but somehow parenting is like, well, you had the kids, just deal with them. This is what you wanted. So, but being a parent is the most important thing in the world, right?
Yes.
Our human existence doesn't persist unless we bear children, and I think teachers, are the second most important job in the world. So,
yes.
and unfortunately, neither of those jobs, one is not paid at all, and the other is not paid enough.
Yes.
Our society doesn't value those, and I wish they did, but that doesn't mean that you can't value yourself, recognize, the importance of what you're doing, and give yourself props every day, because self-criticism is a huge problem for a lot of moms, especially working moms, even stay-at-home moms, because then they lose that identity they had when they had a career, and then someone comes home at the end of the day, the house is a wreck. What did you do all day? You don't understand, and wait, they're climbing the grapes again, like, and so it's very hard because we can't be in someone else's shoes, even someone we know and love.
Totally. I think it's a good point for some salty questions real quick before
All
we
right.
wrap up.
Brandon, what is our salty question for today?
For today's salty question, I have for Diane, what simple saying or quote do you fall back on that makes you keep pushing through those hard times?
Oh, gratitude. I every morning I go through a list of things I'm grateful for, and when things start getting me down, I just think of so many things in my life that I wanted, that I got. I mean, even back when I was young, and someday I want to go to college and graduate college. This wasn't a given for me, me and my family. I did very well in school, and I got scholarships. And, I wanted a job in TV news so bad, and not to be on television, but to have that energy of like producing important stories for the community that would be seen by people. And I got to do that career for years. I wanted to be a mom so bad. And I got to have two beautiful, healthy, successful children, but it was, all those things took so much work and effort and struggle. And so just keeping that gratitude, knowing that I'm like live in a safe community, I'm an optimistic person. So I'm grateful that I'm optimistic, and I try to tell others the value of that. And you're not born optimistic or pessimistic. You can train yourself. And I'm so grateful that I'm healthy, and I don't take these things for granted. I work hard. I was thinking about all the things I do to be healthy. I eat mostly fruits and vegetables. I know that sounds so cliche, but it does work. I exercise every day, or most days, I try to. I get enough sleep, or generally try to. You know, my family thinks, no, you don't, because every so often I pull an all-nighter, which is like crazy, because I get in flow state.
Right.
I get in
I
flow
totally
state,
understand
but then
that.
I make up for it. The next day I sleep like 12, 13 hours or over the weekend or something. I'm conscious of my sleep debt, you know, and I regulate my stress, sometimes not enough, and then I recognize that, you know, I keep that good attitude, and I understand the importance of relationships, you know, and all those things are part of health, and so these are all the different things that I'm grateful for, and so when things get me down, I remember all those things, and I'm a problem solver. So I just keep there's a solution to every problem. One of the toughest periods of my life that I just wrote for an anthology book that's going to come out with me and some other business owners through a woman who throws the Accelerator Business Summit, puts on the Accelerator Business Summit every year. I am limitless, and so I talked about I went through kind of a mental breakdown for several days where I just was in a situation where I thought there's no solution to this problem. And I came up with one, and everyone said, you're crazy, it'll never work. And I said, I'll make it work. And so that's how I push through. Just believing in myself, always, you know, reframing problems to solutions, and being grateful for all the things that I do have. Even if there's so many things I don't have yet that I want. I have
There's so many things out there.
Yes.
I need that.
Why? Yes. Why
How
don't
do I
I
get
have
that?
that yet? Why have I been trying to get that for so long, and I don't have that yet? But I have so many things that I wanted and I got.
I love it.
That's awesome.
That, I think we are good. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. This was great fun.
This is a great conversation. So, okay, don't forget to check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music, and Apple Podcasts at Salt Sauna Soul. And like, share, subscribe, and check out the MomSub app on Apple and
Google Play, and MomSub website.
Yes.
And we talked earlier about, I have the Women in Work podcast, where we talk about all the challenges women face trying to balance family and work.
Yes.
Women in Work podcast on all the same places where your podcast is.
Yes, YouTube, Spotify,
all those.
Apple.
We're on all those. And I'm going to have Donna on.
Yes, I will be on. We're going to chit chat more.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
So I think this wraps us up for our episode of
Salt
Sauna
Soul.
I love it. Thanks for tuning in to Salt Sauna Soul, where wellness meets wisdom, one episode at a time. If you found today's conversation inspiring, helpful, or just plain soul-soothing, we'd love it if you'd share it with someone who could use a little more calm, clarity, or community in their life. You can listen and subscribe on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or watch the full experience on YouTube. Just search Salt Sauna Soul and hit that follow or subscribe button. It helps more than you know. Got a wellness tip, question, or a story of transformation? We'd love to hear from you. Drop us a comment on YouTube or leave us a review wherever you're listening. It keeps the conversation going. This podcast has been powered by Halo Heat Sauna Studios, where touchless wellness meets total restoration. Learn more or book your next session at HaloHeatSaunaStudios.com. Until next time, breathe deep, stay warm, and keep nurturing your soul.